Hey, my name is Daniel, and I will be talking about TypeScript strict compile options, especially in the Vue ecosystem. And that's the talk for the JS World Conference, February 2022. The QR code you can see here as if you have any further question after this talk, just to reach out to me via LinkedIn. However, if you want to do it via Twitter, just hit me up there as well. I will also reply. Okay, so let's start with a little background or some facts. Namely, Airbnb, their post-mortem concluded that they could avoid 38% of bugs if they would implement TypeScript, and this not even with the strict rules. Actually, we don't know which exactly rules they wanted to apply, but I suppose it's just about the general rules. And we could even imagine that the number could have been higher if they would implement fully strict rules, or at least majority of them, or at least stricter than the default one. So this is what Airbnb says, or Reddit says. However, that's not only what we can find online. There was even a research paper done by University College London Microsoft Research researchers, and they have concluded both Flow and TypeScript. That time it was 2.0. I believe the research dates on 2017 or 18. Now we have TypeScript 4.5, and Flow is not that, it's, let's say, less popular than it was that time. They have concluded 15% of bugs could have been detected. So here we can see the numbers. Here we have 38, on that the number we have 15. Let's say 25 would be the market consensus. That's a big number, and that's the little background of why we are having this talk. TypeScript compile rules, where you can find them. Well, if you would Google this, then most probably you end up in the TypeScript, in the tsconfig documentation, compile option documentation, and there are many categories like type checking, modules, emit, JavaScript support, and so on. You might think that we will focus on type checking, and this assumption is correct. However, there are also several others. Those others are those with dots, but we can see, or we will see, there are also others in the categories below. The full scope of the, I won't have time to go through all those rules. I will just go through the few selected, but just for you to give the to get the grasp of the scope TypeScript compiler rules have. Where you can find them, as other compiler options in the tsconfig file. This is how the tsconfig file looks like. Every TypeScript project will generate it. I'm not going to go into details. I assume most of the audience knows what tsconfig JSON file is, and our focus will be here on the compile options. And here we can see a sample. It's React, I believe, and here we can see, for example, the keyword strict. That's just at the top of the iceberg, how to say. Let's Let's narrow our research to Vue.js. And the first moment where you could face this is while generating a Vue create. Here I select as many options as possible, generating this project in Vue 2 and Vue 3 give the same compile option, so there is no difference. And here I have been trying many different things. However, there is no question regarding strict rules. For those who work with Angular at least once, generated Angular projects from the CLI, you could maybe you remember in the terminal asking you if you want to if you want your project to enforce stricter type checking, and this is where strict could show to them in Vue, but that's only Angular case, or other frameworks also don't mention this. So let's see. We have generated two different projects in Angular. One is with strict rules on the right, on the left without. And here we can see a first difference. For example, it's not only the strict which is enabled, but also we have no implicit returns, no for true cases in switch, or for consistent casing in file names, which is all related to strict rules. Okay. On top of this, Angular has its own compile options, and here we also have several rules. On the right side, with the strict flag enabled, which shows that the framework is nicely incorporated with TypeScript ecosystem, which makes sense, of course, because TypeScript came with Angular 2. It's already some time back, and based on my personal experience, TypeScript with Angular are really tied together. In the React Vue, I also felt a bit, especially when it comes to the so-called server-side rendering, like Next.js, Node.js. Sometimes there are the compiler is complaining for such a niche edge cases, and it's really difficult to Google them or fix on your own. So the only way in that case, sometimes we just tsconfig disable next line, which is not what we want, but actually not what we want too often if we talk about writing a good TypeScript code. Okay, but let's get back to Vue, because that's the scope of our talk, or of my talk, and of my talk. Let's say I have generated the project, and let's see what's inside. And by inside, I am referring to compiler options in tsconfig file. So here we can see a couple of rules, okay? And I will highlight those who are related to strict. So this is the strict set to true. We have skiply check is also related, slightly. I will explain further. And allow synthetic default imports is also related, okay? Now, you might think of strict set to true. Yes, then it will fix everything for us. We don't need to care about anything else. But if you think about the it was React tsconfig, then we had different rules which were enabled on top of the strict, and they were different than skiply check and allow synthetic default imports. So that's the very first version 4, it might be the version 4, okay, is a little bit broader than strict set to true. And indeed it is, as you can see, there are plenty of rules. All in all, there are 35, 36. There are more than those which are visible on the screen. And here we have a strict set to true. We have also we have skip lib check. Skip lib check will be downside, so it's not here. And we also had what we had allow synthetic default imports. Are there somewhere here? Also not here. So they will all again next rule, which is not on the first screenshot. And for example, in React, in Angular, we have no implicit returns. React gave, for example, use unknown incurred variable. So let's see what it is about. So we have those three rules. We will explore them a little bit in the next slide. Strict, the very first one, and that one, which seems to be the obvious thought that, okay, we have this enabled, we are fine, but what it does, it enables a wide range of type checking. Okay, that's still good. And those are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so we have 8 of them. And always strict will make sure you are not in a floppy mode, but in a strict mode. Strict null check will make sure you never assign by mistake neuter variable. Strict bind call apply. It will follow strict rules for bind call and apply JavaScript methods. But they are at least since ES5, or I think even earlier, before ES6, we tend to use them more often. And strict function types, the functions will return strict types. Strict property initialization, the property or variable you initialize, you will have, must be initialized. No implicit any, whenever there will be implicit any, which will basically happen when you create a variable and won't assign type, then by default it will be any. Then the compiler will tell you, okay, you have to explicitly set this to any or any other variable. And then we have no implicit, and there is a cut, but it is no implicit returns. No implicit returns, I believe. No, what was it? Or no implicit parameters. I think no implicit parameters. So which means the parameters must have certain types, and use unknown incurred variables. This is basically that you in a catch, when you have the catch block, you just cannot just leave it like this. You have to assign a certain type to this method, which is in catch variable. We will see this. I have this example. Okay, so there are 7, including stick is 9. Okay, let's say. But we had so many. So where are the others? Let's see. 7, 8. The strict. And the next one is skip lib check. Let's see this one. And this one is also linked to not 1, but to 2. For more than 1. In this case, those are 2. And it's also linked to skip default lib check. However, if we'll start. We'll check what skip default lib check does. Is actually references to skip lib check, and this is basically a trade-off between performance and strict type checking. If you want to have a performance, and you skip this, so the libraries are not being checked. If if you want to have stricter bit checking, then or to type checking for libraries, then you should set this false. However, this is not recommended. So here we can see TypeScript team says, okay, maybe there is slow or there will be such a bad developer experience. So, or we value performance over type checking. And in that case, the recommendation is correct. But that's also information for you, so you can know, okay, there is such a trade-off in the compile rules as well. Here I see my screen got cut a little bit. Resolution is equals to npm override, but it's not really important for this this talk. So allow synthetic default imports. We'll go back to, or we'll actually open a documentation, and here we can see what it's about. This is a sample of React, but you can map this to all other frameworks. When set to true, allow synthetic default imports, I will write an import like this instead of the asterisk as React. Okay, and what it is about? How does it matter? And the point is, when you export a module, so this is one file, and this is second file, and in this file which exports the module, there is no default keyword, okay? And when we import this one, or during the export, we'll see that the compiler will complain with this rule being enabled, okay? And now, what's happening? If we will set this and put this to default, then we will get rid of this problem. Why is that? It's for consistency. So whenever you export something and you want to import only this one, not all as something, then it makes sense to put this as default. So it's for a consistency, very small thing, but again, that's one of the rules, and which, yeah, I feel this one is not all that obvious, so I decided to explain a little bit. So let's say with 10, maybe 11 out of 35. What about the remaining ones? All in all, I have kept a table to give a quick conclusion on the rules before going through all of them, because for going through all of them, I would really need the whole 1 hour just for TypeScript, not even touching Vue too much, at least. Here, the recommended false set to false, we have 8 out of 36. Recommended true set to true, we have 9. Those which could have been, though I don't want to say that the rules which should be enabled, but those would make our code stricter, which are recommended to be false, are set to true. This 1, maybe 2. Depends how you count. For example, the example we have seen with skip check. So this is why maybe 1, maybe 2. This is a trade-off. Recommended true, set to false. We have quite some, 12. And other recommended working settings working. For example, we have emit something, preserve, or anything else which doesn't value true or false. We also have several of them. On the other side, there are no other recommended settings which are not working. The most important are the 2 rows to give you overview that why generative Vue project. All in all explicitly or implicitly, there are 22 compiler rules working out of 36. and you don't have to do anything to have them enabled, but you can make the code stricter if you'd like to look into one of those 14. Let's see now for some demos, okay? What do we have here? Example 01. I have 3 examples. First one, all of them are with default settings, and what they are very simple examples. Maybe I refer to tsconfig. Here we have the strict, we have skip lib check, and allow synthetic default input. So those 3 which are explicitly enabled. And in the app view, for example, here I have string value, okay, which pops up first. I have uppercase string value, which at the beginning is empty. And if on button click my function is being called, then this takes sample parameter, and this empty string is being transformed to uppercase. So the sample parameter is basically this, that one. And compiler doesn't complain. You see no error found. Even though maybe someone would have noticed we are currently expecting string, because to uppercase, as yes, you can see converts all the alphabetic characters in a string to uppercase. So it expects string, and here we are passing number. And let's see what will happen on localhost IP. For now, nothing happens because it's open console as well. So here I will make a click, and nothing really happens, and we are seeing view1 error in some point property is not a function, okay? And even though we have strict enabled, and this is a very basic example, right? So now imagine this some client-facing functionality. Let's see if it's actually working. Let's see. I will type hello there. I will say, oops. I will click, nothing is there. Let me reload. Click me. Yes, it's working. I will expect nothing in console. So that was very simple, very basic example. In some setup, it might get me back for basic examples, but yeah, your code will be different than you would like to. Let's see a second example. Try and catch. Here we are getting again personal value of the string, so this last paragraph, another my string, which is empty at the beginning, and we have function, we have button with on click, and what's happening here, I'm just console log timeout 3 seconds is the same being displayed on the screen, and with the timeout of 3 seconds after that, my function 2 is being called. No, what's happening here? No, it's not this example. Okay. No. Oops. here we can see the object is type of unknown, so it already tells us that something is wrong. But what I was saying, after the 3 seconds, our other method is displayed, and then here we have in a try with console log, and then in the my string, it will just show the text on the it will show text on the page, and then here we are trying to console log something. But what I will do to get rid of this, click use my string. Here, like that, and here we are console logging this error. Okay, let me refresh. Value of string 2 seconds. We will have the same in the console. My function to try executed successfully. And here we also had the very first example. When we are trying to assign the error to a variable, we said that our compile type unknown is not assigned to type string. So that's a first good try. But I would like this to happen on the compile time, because here we have the catch. So let's see. We'll set this to true, and then we'll save again. We'll just console log. Okay, and here we have again the same. Why? Because use unknown in case variables is included in the script here. Okay, so this is a quick example. And now, but let's say now we want to assign this thing. We will complain because unknown, because we are unknown, is not assigned to string. If we try to catch this, that's the very first step, but we actually what we have to do. So error. No. I think this is a better example. Sorry, I should assign that it's only to console log. And in the cat variables, we can set this to unknown, and then grab this, but we want to operate this only. One moment, something is really wrong. Yeah, exactly. So we want to access the message of the error, but actually we cannot do this because this is TypeScript in 4.0, I believe, introduced the type unknown, and while getting some response from HTTP, we don't know what's the type. So for the this is a very niche, but for the even better type checking, this is what they have done. I mean, the TypeScript team, and we need to grab this in the error. We need to check if there's instance of error, because only then we can print this out. But the best is actually if you put unknown like this. In that case, so it's even more readable, because here we are saying that this is unknown, and then we are checking if the error is instance of error, because only there is an instance of error we can throw the error. Let's see if it works. My function with timeout of 3 seconds, and we are getting exactly the same thing, but now with the correct setup, and then we can work on the error message, right? Error.message. Because without this, we are in trouble. Yes, correct. Sorry for some it didn't work out, but it happens, of course. In the last example, again we have the basic rules. Oh yeah, he already tells me that I could enable something, but okay. What's happening here? Why I'm checking my calendar? Because I want to check it's Friday. Oh, it's Friday, so let's comment this out. Okay, I compiled, and now if I comment this out, I also compile. And let's see what will happen. So today is this day. Here we have confirmation, and here it says a Friday and Saturday because there was no fall through in case. So there is no fall through in case, and this is a place where no in case switch, where we could say yes, we want to. This is one of the rules which is disabled, and it's recommended to set to be true. But we would like to catch this kind of basic example. Maybe I didn't explain what's here, but as you have seen, there was this paragraph displaying the today's date, and then on the click, there's a switch case checking, getting the date, depending by which date it is, the appropriate date is being alerted. Okay. Here we can see fall through case and switch. So now what I have changed, so enable this explicitly. Our compiler said that okay, this is not correct. We can fix this quickly. It's not only compiler complaining, but here you have seen a real example that it's printing 2 days instead of 1. I will comment this out, and then I'm back here. Let me refresh. I click which day, Friday. That's it. I'm done. So those were the 3 demos I wanted to show you. And with this, we are coming to the end of the presentation. If you want to read more about TypeScript, has a good documentation about the tsconfig file. You can see this link. On top of this, the compile options are being displayed on a different page. You can also find this on the official documentation. And from my side, that's everything. Thanks so much for watching. Once again, if you want to connect, just scan the QR code and hit me on LinkedIn, and I will be happy to discuss more about the topic, or just be connected for sake of being connected. Okay, thanks.